All right, guys, welcome back to another abundance episode. I have a good friend of mine here, Nick Coates, work together in a lot of different areas. This guy is a freaking legend from starting at ClickBank back in, what'd you say, 2014,
14.
and then have scaled multiple brands to 7, 8 figures, created software to help them get there. Breaking when the iOS update came out, you said, we're going to create something to fix that. He has, keeping brands at insane ROAS. So whether you're a beginner entrepreneur thinking about starting a business, whether you're seasoned running a 6, 7, 8, 9 figure business, you do not want to miss this episode with my good friend here, Nick Coates.
Thank you, man. So great to be on today. Really appreciate. And what you guys have built at Abundance is incredible. I'm honored to be a part of the journey. So thank you so much.
Well, I know you're going to share a lot of abundance here on
Yes,
this
sir. You
episode.
bet.
I learn something from you every time we speak, whether it's 5 minutes or 2 hours. You always have so much to share. So I'm excited to get into it. So let's dive in and let's really start from the beginning and how you evolved as a marketer and just your obsession for the game. And really that has led to your success on so many different levels, whether it's tech, whether it's creative partnerships that you've structured, the way that you hire, the way that you continue to evolve the industry. We're definitely going to have you on for a second one,
Yeah,
but
man.
yeah,
Love to.
let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Because also back
Yeah.
then too, when Google ads was coming out, the Instagram was starting, Facebook ads, I mean, you could get it kind of right and hit a home run.
Totally.
And as competition grew, it's like, okay, now it's a little more challenging. And you'll see a lot of these people that have like 10 million followers and they don't make anything from their accounts. They just can't figure it out. They don't have an offer
That's
that
right.
fits. They don't have the marketing dialed in.
That's right.
They're not staying consistent on their message or posting daily. So there's like a 1% of their following even seeing what they're posting.
Absolutely.
And the game's changing. And that's why I'm so excited to have Nick Coates on the podcast today, because you've really been there kind of from the beginning in this whole space that a lot of people are falling into now with courses and building brands and influencers. And, now there's all these big life-changing events and conferences, and you really kind of see it all evolve. So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today to really be talking about the way that you've seen it evolve, what people can be doing now if you're just starting a brand. You don't have the $5,000 a day to be spending on ads, like really talking about how to be smart kind of in that space. And then before we even hopped on this, I'm just mind blown at all the stuff you're working on now that we're going to have a call with Abdul right after this and get the ball rolling in some of those areas. So I definitely want to talk about that as well. And that's really the whole reason for the Abundance Podcast, is really be showing, first time entrepreneurs how to be successful, how to listen to a lot of these people's stories on these shows to not make the expensive mistakes. Because we all have. We made those $1 million mistakes. We're like, wow, I wish I would have avoided that.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've worked together multiple times on a lot of different fronts. You do incredible work. And you're always the man behind the scene.
Yeah.
I think of you as like the Wizard of Oz.
I have like 0 followers.
0 followers. You actually can't find him. I think, what's your AOL Messenger handle?
It's just Nick Coates at AOL.com. That's how old school it is.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I mean, any of you listening to this, like, you have seen his ads, you've seen the people that he promotes, like, you have seen it. He's had, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of impressions you've had on your products and your people.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, we've been running ads, at 7-figure a month kind of scale for almost a decade, basically.
Wow.
I mean, that's, whether it's for a brand that I was partnered in or brands that we, ran the ads for as a service, but it's been running ads at that volume for that long. And so we've seen a lot of changes over the years for sure.
Definitely. And for those of you that are in marketing or you're an influencer, you understand the amount of data and how many lessons this man has learned through that, because, we've ran quite a few hours at that scale. And it's like when you're seeing thousands of emails coming in every day, thousands of emails being opened or unopened, the ads that you're spending $1 million a month on that are converting, that aren't converting. I mean, you learn a lot.
Yes, you do.
And you see stuff that people that are spending $20 a day just will never, ever experience, and they can't.
Yeah. They don't have the perspective.
Right.
They can't, they just don't have that data at their fingertips. Yeah.
So we're in a very interesting time right now where we talk about the wild, wild west all the time, when you could run any offer on Facebook and it would crush. There was
Sure.
like no compliance.
Sure. Yeah.
You didn't get shut down every day.
Yeah.
You didn't need 15
Yeah.
different Facebook accounts with 15 different credit cards from 15 different IP addresses to scale a brand.
That's right.
What are you like? What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last year with scaling brands?
In the last year. So I would say that, we've reached a level of sophistication in the market with the buyers in the market that a lot of the tricks or tactics or things like that don't really matter if you don't have a really great product or service. You can't really fake it very much anymore.
Mhm.
And and the people that are sort of faking it, they're getting squeezed out. They just they can't sustain, they can't last, and they can't battle against a brand. For example, if I'm running your marketing and I fancy myself or my business, we're pretty dang good at what we do. And
I'll back that up, by the way. You guys are fucking awesome at what you do.
Thanks. I appreciate that. If we're running your ads and you have an amazing product or service that delivers the result that you say you're going to deliver, and then you take somebody else that's running ads, and even if they're a great marketer, I don't care, and it's not a great product or service that they're pushing, the audience now will call it out, right?
Mhm.
They're going to comment on those ads. They're going to report those ads as spam or whatever it is, right? They're going to do things that stack the odds against you from winning. Even if you have great market on the front end, you can't fake it anymore.
No.
It's just we've graduated beyond that point now in the market.
100%. I mean, if you get a chargeback rates over 1%, Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, everyone's shutting you down.
Mm-hmm.
You got all these other things. Even a one bad review can really ruin your business.
That's right.
YouTube. So I'm on point with you 100% there, where, we've been running our company since 2015 and we've had to be so on top of that and making sure that you outserve the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Like your customers are your greatest feedback. If you're not constantly surveying them and refining your product, you're just putting yourself in a bad place.
100%. The customer is always first. And that's been the case all along.
Yes.
And my dad told me that, I'm sure your dad told you that at one time or another. The customer comes first.
Yep.
And the customer's always right. You hear these sayings that are very old school, quote unquote, but now they're more important than ever, actually.
Yes.
And there was a time where people were taking advantage of people,
mm-hmm.
and it's becoming harder and harder to do that now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so I know, especially in our world, it seems like every day something is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Apple, rolling out their update.
That was a big,
screwed a lot of people.
Me too. By the way,
difficult.
my whole business was buying ads for people.
Yes.
Right. So that was a tough one.
How did you guys evolve through that?
Yeah. So I think, number one, and this is important for anybody, no matter what phase they're at, like you're gonna get knocked down. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get dealt those blows in business that is just like almost catastrophic or are catastrophic in certain instances, right? And the one thing I've learned over the years, and now I just it doesn't even faze me anymore, and including iOS actually didn't faze me because I had been through several other semi-apocalyptic ad updates where it was like, oh my gosh, this is it, but the reality is I knew that I would figure it out
mm-hmm.
because that's what I do. And that's what we do as scrappy marketers. We will always figure it out. And so when that happened, number one, you had to understand what the real problem was. And a lot of people didn't understand what the real problem was. The real problem was that these platforms are built, Facebook, Google, all of them, they're built on data and getting a massive amount of data back to them so that they can learn what to do next, right? It's pretty simple when you think about it that way. And so when you take this machine learning, platform and you take away a big chunk of its data overnight, right? And it's a machine that's basically, think about like a dog with a treat that's like, oh, good job, I get a treat, right? And all of a sudden it's doing the same job every day. It's retrieving every day, but not getting a treat. Pretty soon the dog's going to stop retrieving, right?
Yep.
So the same thing with the traffic pixel. It was getting that data back to it on a daily basis. And over the course of, 3 to 4 months as everybody adopted that privacy update and said, I don't want to share my data. Those traffic platforms were now no longer getting back that data to learn from. And that was problem number one.
Mm-hmm.
Problem number two was tracking and attribution, was which ad did what for me. Because with the delay of attribution on the side, all of a sudden now, you don't know which ad is doing well. And you're shutting down ads because you think they're not doing well. And then 3 days later, you go back and look at them and you're like, that was at a 5 ROAS. Why did we shut that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was delayed attribution, right? So those were the two big problems that update caused, was a lack of data back to the platform and not clear data for the media buyers to make good decisions with, right? So those were the two problems we had to go solve as scrappy marketers. And most of us solved the which ad's doing well problem pretty quick because there was software and tech out there that did that, right? Hyros and many others have come along since, and we could name them all. But, we went with Hyros to solve that problem. And pretty quickly, within 60 days, now our media buyers weren't flying blind. So we solved that problem. But we didn't solve the problem of getting the data back to the traffic platform yet. But we knew what the problem was. So now it was just a matter of finding the solution.
Right. You identify the problem, then you know where to go. Right?
Exactly.
And when you talked about, like, there was, how many people do you actually think were on the iOS, like, as far as your advertisers in your database? Are we talking 70%? Are we talking 80%? Like, what was
of the mobile conversions, that, all of our different brands were experiencing, the iOS data represented about 70% of their mobile. Over 30% was Android and other devices. So it's on the mobile side.
The majority of your buyers, essentially.
Correct. And
like where they go, can't find them.
Yeah. And if you do even more data analysis, you'll probably see that those iOS buyers have higher average order values. They're actually better buyers, on top of the fact they represent a lot of your buyers. They're what I call power buyers over the other audience.
Cool. Yeah, so you're talking about, like, really big database is gone. You saw that next problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? I mean, like, with this new correction that's happening, I get excited. People get scared.
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to become better at who we are.
It is.
On a lot of different levels. Not just on business, but mentally, physically. Like, now I'm spending even more energy on keeping my mind clear.
Oh, yeah.
Being grounded.
Yep.
Working out even harder because I'm like, okay, it's time to sharpen the axes again. Like, getting back in. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think, I love solving problems. I just, so it excites me when there's a new problem to solve. And, that was a big, and generally speaking, the bigger problem we solve, the more money we make.
Exactly.
Right, in life.
Elon Musk has said that. Warren Buffett has said that. Think and Grow Rich. They all say the same thing.
Exactly. Yep. So, problems are just amazing opportunities. And my dad always taught me, like, with any situation where there's a lot of change, any chaos, in chaos, there's always opportunity, right? Yep. In change, there's always opportunity. So he really kind of taught me to embrace change at a very young age. Like, that's when there's a chance to kind of rise above.
Yeah. And wise man.
Those moments of change. So, so with that, I knew that, like, we very quickly solved the attribution issue, but we hadn't solved the getting the data back to the platform issue. So we went to work on that, and I had some ideas on how to, kind of piece it together. And so we did. Within about 3-4 more months after that, we had Frankenstein together our first version of what now today is our technology that we offer the market. But we knew that we had to, number one, resolve the identity that was of the people that were hitting your website. And then we had to figure out how to get that person back into Facebook or Google. It's those two things, right? So fingerprinting technology already existed, like where you could understand the digital fingerprints of the consumers or the prospects hitting your website. And so good news was that already existed. Customer data platforms already existed, which is kind of where you push all that data from and to. And then I just needed a database, basically, that had a bunch of data in it that I could match those digital fingerprints to. So that was kind of the three pieces that I identified that I knew that I needed to put together. And And, fast forward to now, we did it. We put it all together, and it's working rather well for our brands.
So rad.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to go down that rabbit hole and
Yeah.
start plugging that in because, you know, there's a lot of big marketers, big brands that have these massive databases where maybe they just have an email or they just have a phone number, or they may have an email and a phone number if they're really good at getting that data, maybe a first name, right? And so to be able to go through the database, find out ideal buyers based on behaviors, I mean, that is something that we've always tried to figure out. And I said, I don't even have the know-how to even get there.
Yeah.
And you've pieced that together to where even taking our database, you could go through that and connect a lot of the dots that we don't have, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. These database companies existed too prior to any of this stuff happening. And in the B2B world, this was already I wouldn't say common practice, but it was already being done. Identity resolution of website visitors has been done in the B2B space since before iOS hit. They were doing that.
Right.
And those databases like Zoom Info, these big ones out there, have existed for a very long time. And, the thing about databases is that no two are created equal. So, the database you're pulling from matters, how much data it has, and more importantly, how frequently it's updated. Because old contact information doesn't do any of us any good. So, having a fresh, up-to-date, gigantic database to pull from is very important.
Definitely, because we've bought databases before, and you're like, when did this email come in? Is it from when the internet was created? Is this guy still alive? Like,
yes.
What's happening? And the way that your software works, it's constantly like updating those contacts as well, based on behaviors, based on they change their phone number, they change an email, they go to log back into their Facebook. It can.
That's right. All of that is constantly updated. It stores so a lot of people don't understand how Facebook works, but they have a Facebook ID, if you will, to every user. Well, those IDs, they wash them out every either 14 or 30 days. I'd have to ask my team. I'm not sure what the most frequent metric is, but they scrub those and reissue a new ID for that Facebook on the advertising side of things.
Every month?
Every month.
Wow.
So you're losing your retargeting audiences
every 30 days.
Every 30 days, basically.
Because we were talking about how the pixels are continuing to get worse and worse and worse. We were also talking about how ad costs are going through the frickin' roof. And just like we were talking about earlier, like today will be the cheapest acquisition you have.
Yes.
Just today.
That's right.
Tomorrow will be more expensive.
That's
the next
right.
day will be more expensive. And we've seen these platforms mature. Back in the day, we're using Facebook and cost per lead was quite low. Well, eventually I had to move off of Facebook because everybody else got there and figured it out. Moved to Instagram, then moved to YouTube, and now moving to TikTok. And that's what a lot of people are doing. But when you can really hone in on your expertise and be able to have more tools and more access, you can still be monetizing off those platforms that a lot of people have given up on.
That's right. Because because they don't have the sophistication to continue to try to figure it out, and they don't have the perspective and the budget. When you're advertising right now, we advertise for like 35 brands, I think it is, that we're advertising for. That's a lot of ad spend you're pumping. There's a lot of data you have access to. So when you make a change and you in a strategy or the way you're doing something and it works for one, then you see if it'll work for 3, then will it work for 10? Then does it work for all of them, right? Then now in a statistically significant way that what you're doing, it works.
Yeah.
It's not just an anomaly. Where when you're a brand owner by yourself in the trenches battling to do this, you don't know. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's just a bad day on Facebook. And, you're getting that Facebook tax of just a bad day.
Yep.
Or you don't know if it's system wide, if it's or you specifically, it's your offer and something's changed. And so what I see a lot of business owners do is they're very reactive to those platforms and what's happening on those platforms, and they're overly reactive, and it costs them a lot of money because they just don't have the perspective. Right. So if it's bad day and we see it's a bad day times 35 brands, well, guess what? We're not going to change much. We're just going to ride it out, But if it's a bad day for one brand and not for all the others, we're probably going to jump in and, figure something out pretty quick.
Yeah, big time. So for somebody that is listening in and they're just starting off their brand, and talk about kind of some ninja ways to go about acquiring traffic if they don't have that 5K a month to spend on ads.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do, they don't have a massive budget, like what metrics do they need to be looking at to really decide, do I need to keep scaling this or do I need to cut it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the easiest way is to start with, a warm market where you're building that warm market for your own audience. And then secondly would be joint venture type promotion. So other people that have audiences like yours, where you can engage them to get your product or service in front of their audience. Those are the two, in my opinion, scrappiest ways to go about it that don't require very much, if any, money actually, because you can engage the other people to promote your stuff in a performance basis, right? So that just, you only pay them when you make money. And some people call those affiliates, or some people call those brand ambassadors. It depends on the space that you're in,
Right.
right?
Right.
But and what product or service that you're offering. But um, that's a very effective way to grow your brand profitably prior to ever paying money to run.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And we actually paid a consultant a lot of money to help us really understand the different levels of JVs and how to do evergreen JVs and different types of partnerships. JVs is in joint ventures. And that was a massive revenue stream that we never even paid any attention to because we didn't fully understand it.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, well, why someone has spent their life building their audience. Why would they want to sell my stuff to them? But like on a lot of those lists, those people haven't bought. And if they haven't bought from that person, they might buy from you.
That's
And then you
right.
can split the commission and it becomes a win-win-win for everybody because you're adding value to their list.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting paid a piece and then you're getting paid a piece. And then that lowers your risk because you're able to test it. And when you go do a JV, start with a small list, right? If someone has 100,000 people on their email list, run it to like 15,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't burn the whole list. Fine tune it. Ask feedback from that list. What was the disconnect? Why did you not like my product?
Sure.
Yada, 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 yada.
Yeah.
Get that data, fine tune it, and then start going. Because we always talk about getting that big affiliate deal, that big JV, the Agora Financial lists of the world. It's like, that's the hot girl at the dance. Everybody wants her. But like, if you ain't ready, you're going to ruin it forever.
That's right. And I would say don't start there. You
Right.
started the conversation with like who to go after, what to do when you're starting out. And I think for me, the really important thing there is that you're starting at the lower end of that totem pole,
Yes.
not the top, because you only get one chance. You only get one chance.
Yep.
And so you want to put your best foot forward in that one chance that you have with that relationship. So I always, warm market first is best. Build your own audience, have your own irresistible offer. I mean, Alex Hormozy, that guy's book is phenomenal. Like, just build an irresistible offer, something that people absolutely want, can't live without. They feel stupid if they say no, right?
Yep.
Build that offer, then deliver that to your warm audience. Even if your warm audience is small, build an audience, right? Through consistency. How do you build an audience? Consistency. That's it. Just every day doing the same thing. It doesn't have to actually be daily, but just consistency is what matters. You pick a frequency that you're going to do content and you stick to it for a long period of time.
Yep.
All those platforms are smart enough to know consistency, basically, right? So they reward consistency.
Big time.
It doesn't matter how many times a day and all this stuff. It just matters that you're consistent.
Consistent. Same with organic and ad spend. So we noticed if a credit card hit its limit and shut down, it took a long time for that ad account to get back up to performing to where it was. Because then we seemed like an illegitimate business because we couldn't pay that next $50 bang on the credit card.
That's right.
Right. So paying attention to that, like so many people want to come in and, I'm just going to start spending $500 a day right out of the gate. It's like you're blowing through all that money. You're not letting your pixel like accumulate the data that it needs.
Yep.
And then you're going to pause it when you run out of money because you're waiting for sales to come in.
Yeah.
Like the platforms don't like that. Same with organic. When you're posting YouTube, if you post a video every single day for a year straight, YouTube, the platform will actually see you as an influencer and start pushing yourself out to everybody else. Because think about how many people out there actually put out a video a day. Very few.
Very few.
Very few.
Very few.
So consistency is key. And that's the thing, especially with organic right now and platforms like TikTok. I mean, I've seen brand new accounts. The first video I launched on my TikTok got 160,000 views. We had 280 signups into our free 7-day challenge.
Yeah.
because the messaging was right. We had the right hashtags that were associated with our audience and our offer, and it crushed.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we made more of that than ads that had ran for
a
month.
Oh yeah. No, it's a very powerful platform, and you're right. You can really, um, and it's also forgiving in the sense of too, like even if your first video isn't 160,000 views, if your first video was 12 and your second one was 20, your third one could be 160. Like it's just a matter of kind of getting that formula right.
And that's 160 people that have no idea who the hell you are.
That's correct.
That's you starting to build your audience.
That's right. But you need to have that irresistible offer for people. And people a lot of times forget that piece. Like, what if you had said, I'm going to try out this TikTok thing, right? And you had gone and done that video and you got 160,000 views, but you didn't have something to push them to. You had no call to action. You had no offer to give, right? You would have wasted that amazing moment to capture that audience. So that's my other advice to new people is craft that irresistible offer first and always be pushing people to that irresistible offer in all the content that you're doing.
100%. Because that's where you're going to get, your first couple of customers. You're going to be able to spend a lot of time with them, learning about their experience, learning about how to get, make it better. Before you get that viral video, that brings you in 300 customers. So that's a very important point to make. And that's what we did with any of the brands that we built. It's like, there's 15, 20 people in there that for like 2 months are just giving insane feedback on how to make it better. What did we do wrong? How else could we serve you? And when we really got hyper focused on that, then we were able to create the irresistible offer out of that first like sample base.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I would talk about with just the people that are starting up and how to have success is you got to work really hard. Everybody has this messaging that like it's this lifestyle thing that you just, you're on a beach on a laptop and you're just, crushing it. Well, guess what? You had to work your ass off to get onto that beach and be on that laptop, right? So I think it's really a disservice to startup folks out there. You got to work really, really hard to make it, and if you just work hard and you're consistent and you put it in every single day, it compounds. The compounding effect, just like compounding in money, you can compound time. And people don't understand that. The average person, I think, works like 3-point-something hours a day of the 8-hour workday.
Yep.
So if you actually just worked 8 hours a day, like actually worked 8 hours a day, for every year that person is working, you're working 2 years.
Yes.
Right? That the average person works, right? You're working 2. In 10 years, you've worked 20 years and they've only worked 10.
Yep.
So like you see how the compounding effect really starts to add up. 3x it, I work a 10-hour workday every day and I take a 1-hour lunch break. I do that every day. And I've been doing that for a decade. So a lot of people ask like, how do you get to where you're at? How do you guess? I worked really hard and I still work really hard, but I love what I do. So I'm kind of a freak that way.
Yeah.
I love what I do. And I love this business. I love this field that we're in. And I'm passionate about it. So I just happen to be to where my passion is something that happens to also make me money.
That was the other very important piece of the equation is you have to have an irresistible offer and then you have to be like absolutely love what you do.
You do.
You have to be so passionate about it.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of people get it wrong. They see a trending market and they're like, cool, I got a great offer. I'm just going to run with it. But then when you need to put in that 12-hour day, when you need to cancel a vacation to fix your business, when the iOS update comes up, you're like, there went 70% of my customers. If you don't have the love for the game, that's where people blow up.
100%. You gotta love the journey that you're on, or you will wash out. It will happen, right? You're not going to be able to weather the storm if you're doing it for the money, because the money's not coming in.
Right.
In the storm.
Right. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
And you've seen that happen with a lot of brands. I mean, you're not talking about your own experience. Like we see people come and go all the time.
All the time. And it's, there's various reasons why people fail, obviously, but if they don't love what they're doing, that's definitely up there on the list. Not being financially responsible is up there on the list too.
Yes. Yeah. Cause a lot of entrepreneurs come in and they're like, oh, I'm making $6,000 a month. I'm filthy rich. I'm going to go buy this $1,000 a month car that I got to pay a lease on. I'm going to move into a $4,000 a month,
That's
apartment and just start blowing all this. I did it. Cause I remember when I started my first business, in the online space. I'd
Mm-hmm.
had 5 or 6 that had failed in the offline. So I said, I need to
Yep.
figure out how to make this internet money.
Yep.
And met Abdul. He became one of my mentors and scaled my first marketing business to 10K per month. And I
Yeah.
thought I was filthy rich. I'd never seen money like that before.
Oh yeah.
This is before inflation. This is before the high interest rates we're experiencing right now.
Yep.
And just started blowing money
Oh yeah.
left and right.
Oh yeah.
Left and right. Didn't understand it. I didn't understand how to help my
Yep.
money work for myself. And I had stayed at a plateau for a long time because I wasn't reinvesting that into my mindset.
Yeah.
I wasn't reinvesting that into my business.
Yeah.
I was hiring overseas VAs that were like $3 an hour instead of finding real A player talent
Yep.
in the States that, you know, would have made me a lot more money in
Yes.
the short term, right? We start making all these mistakes as we start growing our business.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now we have over 50,000 entrepreneurs on the platform that we've helped teach in the 5 different
Yes.
areas. And that is one of the second or third videos in the mindset module is like, trust me, we've seen everybody from, you know, even David Meltzer's story, $100 million gone overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Like you listen to those people talk about money, they just have a different understanding about it. And
Totally.
be using every single dollar you're making needs to be working for you, whether that's bettering your health, bettering your business, like the fancy cars, the fancy houses, like
Doesn't matter.
after 24 to 48 hours, they're not even exciting anymore.
Yeah. It doesn't.
You ripped around town, you showed your friends, now you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
now this is a giant liability.
Yeah. And by the way, I went through that phase myself. It was definitely, I learned every lesson in life the hard way. I wasn't head like that, you know, but I did it too. You know, I was in my early 20s. I was crushing it. I spent all the money on all the dumb things. I had a bunch of real estate. I was really into like buying properties, and I had 8 properties, and 2008-9 crash happened, and, you know, I lost everything and had to rebuild from nothing. And it was tough, man. It was a big blow to my ego and my pride. Most men, we get our self-worth and our identity from our ability to make money
And produce. Yeah.
and produce, right? Like most men, that's where we get that from. And I had learned that that's not where I didn't have any choice but to find other things to get my self-worth and my identity from. So I chose to lean into being a father and a husband, and you know, and really get my self-worth and my identity from those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most valuable things that ever happened to me. And that wasn't that long ago, you know. 2009 was not that long ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very important. Like, and that's what we were talking about earlier. When you have passion and really your drive and your why is what is going to push you through those tough times, but then also keep you grounded in the good times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a new father. I got a 15-month-old son, and it's been like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me because yes, it's more challenging, but he challenges me to be a better person every single day.
He always will.
Because it's like, I'm going out and I'm choosing to be away from you. What am I doing in that time when I'm choosing to be away from you?
Yeah.
It's like, am I serving people? Am I building my business? Am I having
Yep.
high level conversations with amazing people like you to give value out to people that are listening into this on their way to work or on their way home from work? Those are the things that now I have to focus on. And he's helped me realize that.
And it just gets better the older they get. For me, at least personally, I just love it. My son's 12, and literally this morning we were listening to an episode of Alex Hormozy, The Game, as I was driving him to school, and we're having an intellectual conversation about what is being discussed. And yesterday I took him up snowboarding, same thing. It was an extension of yesterday. We had listened to a couple of those episodes on the drive up and the drive back to the ski hill. But at 12, you know, he's doing these things, and it's just so fun to watch his brain and watch him ask questions. But it absolutely levels us up because there's a balance in being a business owner and being a father and being a husband that many people talk about, actually. I'm surprised at how few people actually talk about the balance. They all talk about the ways to crush it and make money and do all this stuff. But man, being a balanced version of all 3 of those roles that you play, all 3 of those hats that you wear as an entrepreneur is the greatest pursuit, and it never ends, ever.
Yeah. I want you to elaborate on that more, because earlier you talked about how you're putting in 10 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
And I know Saturdays and Sundays still that happens.
It's,
in some occasions.
Occasionally it's sacred, but yes, occasionally it does. Yeah.
So talk more about that balance. I want to know, and I know there's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, especially through COVID. I mean, a lot of babies showed up in the world. So there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are also young parents now that I think will get a lot of value out of you sharing the
Yep.
way that you manage your time?
Absolutely. So every day I wake up early. I'm an early riser, 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning every morning. I get my son up to work out. Obviously we all have different, kids in different phases of our life, but we do some exercise together. I cook him uh, breakfast. He makes his lunch, and then he's off to school and I'm off to work. Basically, I take him to school and then I'm going to work for the day. Um, I break up my day a little bit differently. So my day, I'm usually on uh, all the way until 5 p.m. I'm kind of like pretty hard and fast at 5 p.m. And then it's sacred family time, unless there's something very urgent that crops up for the evening. But with my phone, I'm not with I'm present.
Mm-hmm.
And then uh, I cook my family dinner. I love to cook. So that's a way that I sort of decompress from my day, and I'm there and present with my family. And then usually once they're uh, off to bed, if you will, or kind of winding down for the night and doing their own thing at the end of the evening, then that's when I jump back into my stuff for a couple hours usually.
Yeah, and the mornings and nights, like you talk about being a morning hour or a night arc or lark, um, where that's when the world is more quiet and you can actually get into deep work. And
Mhm.
was it Cal Newport wrote Deep Work? You
I
read that book?
I have not read that book. Uh-uh.
It's fantastic. I mean, you're already living it, but he really talks about people explain time and money are your most valuable resources, but he argues that brain power is actually your most valuable resource. Because, like you're saying, people work an 8-hour day, but how much of those hours are they actually productive? Three and a
Yes.
half. And he says your brain is only capable of about 3 to 4 hours of difficult decision or high production work.
Mm.
And then after that, you're kind of moving in your secondary subconscious
Yep.
to just kind of go through the motions.
Yep.
And so we teach people at Abundance, when you're building your business while you're still going to work, either get up early and build it in 2 to 3 hours before you go to work. Get up at that 4 a.m., that 5 a.m. when your brain is like its sharpest.
Yeah.
You're giving all that brain power to your destiny, to your business.
Yep.
Or if that's late night, like Abdul's a late night kind of guy. So he'll be trying to bounce ideas off me at 8, 10 o'clock at night once his kids are sleeping. I'm like, bro, my brain works in the morning. I'm the morning guy.
That's right. No,
So
it's
finding those
good.
sacred times,
Yes.
after your son and wife go to bed, then you probably have those 2 hours where you're like, oh my gosh, I can just sit here and
We do. And the other thing I would say is that's how I built my business too. When I was in corporate America and I was like looking to break out and start my company back in 2016, I was still in 14, I started digital marketing, but 16 is when I left my company. I still had my day job. But that's how I built it to begin with. I would meet with the guys that I built my first company with. We would meet at Starbucks at 6 a.m. We'd work from 6 to 8. Then I would go to my day job with these same guys that we worked together. Then we would go on our lunch break. We would work more, go back to work, go home at 5. I'd do homework with the kids or bathe the kids or whatever. Depending on the kid we're talking about and how old they were, but, do the kid time thing, put them to bed. And then I would go to the garage and I'd work more. And so I built my business that way in the beginning, and I've never really changed, to be honest with you. I still have those same kind of work cycles, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you say, "Oh, I don't have enough time," there's not enough time in the day, you're actually taking time away from you. Like when you work a full-time job, you still go to the gym 7 hours a week, you still do like 40 hours of miscellaneous work. You still have 25 hours left
Oh, yeah.
in the week.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, well, I go home and I watch, just one show before I go to bed."
Yeah.
That's 7 hours a week. You could have been building your business.
Oh, yeah. It's an excuse, and it's bullshit, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if I can cuss on this podcast or not, but it just did.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay. But yeah, it's a total bullshit excuse, because if you say I don't have enough time, it's just that you don't care enough about whatever that is to do it.
100%.
That's it.
Your priorities are out of whack.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and people talk about happiness and how to have happiness every day, and people think it's the pursuit of it, and eventually you get to happiness or you get to that successful point in your business. But when you realize that there's no finish line, like there's no completion for, like you said, being a better father or being a better husband or being a better business owner or your health or whatever it is, there's never a finish line. It's the pursuit of attaining your next goal or your next milestone that actually makes you happy.
100%.
Like, how many times have you gotten to that goal and you're excited for a second, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, now what? That
Yeah.
dopamine drops.
Yep.
Right. And then I almost feel anxiety or like pressure in a weird way of, okay, now what am I supposed to focus on? What's the next
Yep.
thing? And you've grown so many businesses and brands kind of through that. Can you talk more to that about how you set up your goal structures for
Yeah.
yourself and also for companies?
Well, I think it's really simple actually. And I'm on the board of, I don't know, half a dozen or so companies, and I own, obviously my company, and I help countless entrepreneurs in the companies that I'm scaling. Because guess what happens when we scale somebody? We break something,
Yes.
right? We always break something when we scale them, right? So I've had to solve just about every other business problem, under the sun when it comes to digital marketing, but also when it comes to operations to support, right? And a physical product company, supply chain, all these things, you name it. I've helped business owners probably solve it, right, over the years. But I think the thing that most kind of business owners don't do a good job of, because they're down in the weeds and they have those blinders on, right? They can only see that tunnel vision of what they're dealing with right at the moment.
Mhm.
It's to state it simply, it's the next most important problem next in their business. What's the next most important problem for you to solve? And having laser focus on the problem until it's solved, popping your head up and, okay, now what's the next most important problem to solve, and solving that problem next, right? If we solve your acquisition problem and you're scaling, great, you've solved your acquisition problem. Odds are you're going to have an operational problem and an ascension problem to solve, right? So we solved
Right.
so which of those two is most important? Well, it depends. Every business is unique. It depends on what's happening and what's broken. So I think that every business owner out there, no matter what phase of the journey you're in, if you can develop one superpower, it's focusing on the next most important problem next. And business owners that master that, whether knowingly or unknowingly, are the ones that you see continually crushing, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity.
Yeah, that's huge because, and that's why if you can solve that problem, that like you see something come up, and if we procrastinate that problem, then you deal with it tomorrow when you solve it. There's always going to be another problem. So the more that you procrastinate what needs to happen immediately, you can tend to just delay your success because there's always going to be that next thing. Like you said, it's either acquisition. Once you figure that out, then usually it's systems or softwares that start
Just
breaking.
operations.
Operations.
Mhm,
Then you got personnel,
mhm.
right? You got people coming and going. You got turnover rate there.
Yep,
You finally find an A player and get them dialed in, and then all of a sudden they find a different opportunity, right? So like these things keep. Then you got a support issue. Now you got to start building up your support team because your acquisition team is so strong, and it's always this constant juggle of making sure
that's right.
that everything's being taken care of. So that's why we always go violently fast in any brand that we're building, is because like the more we spend, the more problems we're going to have, the faster we can figure it out,
Yep,
the quicker we can move on.
that's right.
And people really need to understand that, like, become obsessed with your product, become obsessed with your brand,
Mhm,
and fucking go hard
that's right.
so that you can figure out what your next problem is. And if you can get ahead of it, that's when you can actually grow a fast business. And you see these brands come up
Yeah,
out of freaking nowhere. And
yep,
you're like, you go talk to the core people of that team and ask them how many hours they put in the last year to get that business where it's at.
yeah,
These are all out massive blitz
that's right.
that happen.
And those guys are working their faces off, or girls. They're working their faces off, and it doesn't happen without that. Going back to what you said, I see a lot of businesses when you talk about not focusing on the right problem next. If you haven't solved acquisition, by the way, like, you don't have a business.
Yes.
So,
Because people spend so much money, like, I'm gonna get a podcast going,
yeah,
I'm gonna get my business cards, I'm gonna get all these banners made, I'm gonna get my
yep,
website looking super cool,
yep.
all this crap.
Guess
And you're
what?
like,
Doesn't matter.
where are your customers?
Doesn't matter.
How are you gonna get them?
If you can't find customers, none of that matters. And so I love personally, and I believe you solve acquisition first, right? Then you solve ascension second. Then you solve operations
Can you break down Ascension for
third.
the listeners just so
Yeah.
that everyone's clear?
Ascension is and I mean to its simplest form, meaning acquisition. If I'm breaking loose a new offer, I don't care about upsells, downsells. I don't care about any. I don't care about email journey. I literally care nothing about all of those things. I just care, can I drive traffic to a sales page and people will click buy and buy it, right? Until I've solved that problem, I don't solve any other problem in the business because I want all of my team's creative horsepower and energy being directed towards that singularly most important problem in that business, right? Because we don't have a business yet if we don't solve that problem. None of that matters. If you were to pay my team to work on building out all that other crap for you, right? It would cost you 6 figures easily, right? To get all that done. And we don't even know if we can get customers in the door. So you just wasted all of that money. And that customer journey on the front end might change 10 times to get it to break loose. So everything that you built, that whole magnum opus, does not matter at all. It was a complete waste of time and money. And I made this mistake myself, Chance. I made this mistake so many times coming up in the very beginning. I had to have my upsells done and I had to have my emails done and and then I'd launch and nothing would happen, right? And then eventually I'd tweak it and I'd tweak it and I'd tweak it and finally I'd get something to break loose, but then everything that I built didn't matter. And I surprisingly and stupidly made that mistake multiple times before I learned it, but finally it stuck.
Yeah. Like, oh, just that one influencer, just that one product. We'll do it all again.
Yeah.
But you're so right, because the thing that people get wrong so many times in the upsell process is they have an upsell that's not congruent with their first product.
That's right.
Or they're trying to cross sell with another brand that makes no sense.
Exactly.
And so just like you said, run it, get that first offer.
Just build a sales page and an order form.
That's it.
Or an opt-in page if you're going after lead gen, just that's it.
Yep.
Don't do anything else. And focus on getting people to take action on that one thing. Put all of your creative energy into that. And I don't care if you're a new brand or if you're an old brand and this is a new product launch, the same thing applies. Like if you're trying to break it loose on cold traffic, that
100%.
Always the same thing applies.
And if you do have a list, we always test new offers to an existing list or a JV or whatever, because ads are expensive and it's going to continue to get more expensive. Mm-hmm. So by doing these little tiny things can make or break your product.
And that, I've helped several brands on the back end with the email piece too. And even there we have a strategy. If we're going to test a new offer and you have a big list and you're going to dial it in on that list, you want to segment that list into micro segments and you want to test variations of that offer, because on a warm list, everything to a certain extent will convert.
Correct.
Right. So if you're going to really dial that in before you blast it out to your whole list, and obviously you have to reach statistical significance. So size does matter somewhat.
Right.
But you want to chunk it out to where you have maybe 3, 4, 5 variations of that offer. See what messaging resonates best, the combination of subject line, calls to action, and your sales page, figure out what works best, lock it in, change it up, and then blast it to your whole list. You'll make more money.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And so when you're testing a new product, would you say you'd run it out to 10% of your list and then fine tune from there and then run it out?
And again, because statistical significance matters, so your size of your list matters here. So it would be the smallest size of the list possible to reach statistical significance.
And what would you say would be statistical
significance?
Yeah.
I personally like to have at least, if it's to my warm audience and it's to the same type of audience list, meaning it's a mix of opt-ins or buyers, or it's only opt-ins or it's only buyers, you want to control that segmentation so that it's same to everybody you send to. I want to have at least 200 people hit my sales page, and then, your conversion rate from there.
That's a good number to have, because I was thinking you'd want more than that, but 200 people, you can get a good feel for it.
I can get a good feel. Now, that isn't true statistical significance. I mean, people will argue. A lot of people say you need 600 conversions before you reach statistical significance. I've found that you can get some pretty strong directional data. You'll usually have a very strong outlier, right? We're not talking 10, 20% difference.
Right.
You'll usually have one that's like, oh, damn, that's double. That's triple what all the rest were.
Yep.
And so that's why I'm saying I think that you can hit it a little bit smaller segmentation, smaller audience size.
That's very powerful. Guys, take notes on that. Like, that is some spending tens of millions of dollars to figure out how to do it right, how to do it wrong.
We do the same thing on ads, by the way. We do the very same thing on ads. If you think you have a new hook or angle that you want to test to an offer, we'll do a solid background color and a headline, and that's it. Same audience, same budget, and 5 different variations of that hook.
Mhm.
And one of them will double or triple the performance of the others. Now you know your hook, right? So then you take that hook and you carry that over to the sales page to have that congruence. So it's the same process every time, actually.
Right. And you're doing that. And those of you that are not advanced marketers, he's split testing at every level, right? You see an ad that's going to take you to a sales page. You go through the sales page, whether you opt in, whether you buy or not. There's an email follow-up sequence from there.
Mhm.
All of that is being split tested.
Yep.
Multiple different variables
That's
at
right.
every given point. And you'll get those emails that you always love to open and you always buy from them. And you think, oh, they just wrote me an email. That thing has been tested probably
That's right.
15 times, 15
That's
different variations
That's right.
before it finally worked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So you guys that are, building your brand or wanting to fine tune your platform, your brand, whatever it is, understand exactly what Nick just shared with us and start implementing that into your business. I guarantee you're going to see a lift.
100%. Yeah. ABT.
I just
Always
spoke,
be
I
testing.
just, I just spoke for you and guaranteed your stand.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. That's right.
So we talked about beginning entrepreneurs or brands or influencers, how to start really leveraging and getting into a new audience and testing a new product. Now, for the listeners that, have a substantial business that are doing multiple 6 figures, multiple 7 figures. I mean, this applies to 8, 9, and 10-figure businesses
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them, especially with ad costs going up?
Mhm.
What are some creative ways that you're helping your brand scale and keeping those healthy ROAS numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, we do, conversion rate optimization on the customer journeys, like you mentioned, at every level. So it's looking at the business holistically and identifying where you have holes that are kind of underperformers. Because even if you're a brand that's crushing, you're going to have areas of your business that are weak comparatively to. This is where having perspective really helps me to know is that I can tell where this rate is low or that rate is low when we're talking about ads or click through from sales page to order form conversion rate or email open rates or email click through rates or all of these metrics. I know what they should be to be successful, so we can usually easily diagnose like, okay, this is where they need some work. And again, it's the next most important problem next, right?
Right.
Same thing. So we're just helping them identify what that next most important problem is. So for those brands out there that are looking at those things and you don't have the perspective of all of that data to dive into, number one, most big brands are not surprisingly doing continual split testing on their customer journey. They're just not. They have something that's working and they're kind of trying to figure out how to fix things on the back end more so,
Right.
as opposed to continually testing that front end. For example, in your ads, if your ad, let's say you have a really strong video ad. I'll just give you a very specific example. Let's say you have a really strong video ad in your business, really taking a look at those metrics in the video ad and saying, how could we make this better in a micro point of view? Meaning 3-second video views, right? Taking your 3-second video view rate up will ultimately, so testing different hooks into that video that might already have a strong call to action increases your CTR, decreases your cost per click. You're making more money, right? Same thing on the sales page. Always be testing, always be split testing, and always be sending a certain percentage of your traffic to your control and then to your variations that you're doing. But
just so you guys know, your control is your winner and you're always trying to beat the control.
That's right.
Right. So then that control is the best. You're running 3 to 5 other variations. One of them beats that. Now you just overall fix your numbers through your entire funnel because now the top end, you've beat that control. Now you're going to continue trying to beat that control with your other variations.
That's right. That's right. Now so that's something I don't see a lot of larger brands that are successful surprisingly doing. I don't see them doing a lot of that.
Usually because they feel like it's expensive to change, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So many people get stuck into that thing.
Yeah.
Which I know for us, we only like to scale like on ClickFunnels so far, and then we hard code it in HTML on landing pages because it just converts better and the speed's better and the load
Mm-hmm.
speed and the control and everything is. So then for us to go through and do that, we do it on some extent. I know we can always be better at that, but there's always just such a big chain of command to make a technical
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We need the copywriter to write it. We need to reshoot the ad. It needs to be edited. Then it needs to go back to ClickFunnels. It works there. Then it needs to be hard coded and then going back
Yep.
to the HTML. So I think, I mean, for us anyways, can be our
Yeah.
bottleneck with split testing.
And there's split testing software that as a matter of fact, we did it for you guys for that was one of our engagements that we did for probably 8 months in the Modern Millionaires brand we did that with our split testing software. But I would say that there's definitely technology out there that can help
speed that
up for you guys.
Now that you're talking about it, I remember we did that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was very successful. I think we almost 2x you guys click-through rates on that.
And that was like different color buttons, moving the headline a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just these little things that you would never think gives you
massive lifts.
Yeah.
Massive lifts. We have one, we just had a win last week, I'll tell you, on a supplement brand where we offered a free ebook, okay, which is digital. There's no cost of delivery on this. But it was a 1, 3, 6 bottle buy options, right, on their sales page. And this was one of our first tests we ran for them. And we put the free ebook on only the 3 and 6 bottle options. And we took their average order value from $120 to $180.
Wow.
Right. So, and it was literally just like a little badge that we put on there and then a digital delivery of that ebook on the back end. So not very hard to do, transformative to their business, absolutely transformative to their business.
So, okay, that's very valuable. And I know that we're going to talk more about using some of your new softwares coming up as well, which we're going to drop a link that people can hit with this to go fill out the application, kind of go through your entire process.
Sure.
But can you please talk about the ninja shit that you're doing now? That blew my fucking mind. And I think you're the first, I think this will be maybe the first podcast or show that you've actually talked about this.
That's correct. I have not talked about it publicly on a podcast yet. Mostly because we've been dialing it in. Yeah, exactly.
Coming to you first at abundance.io, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, man. Yeah. So we've been doing this for a while now. We've got about 48 or 50 brands now on this technology. So it's been put through the paces and it's working very, very well. But it's identity resolution software is essentially what it is. So we place a pixel on your website and we identify your anonymous website visitors that don't opt in. That's really put simply what we do. Then it's what we do with that data though that matters, right? So we pass that data into those traffic platforms to give those pixels more data, basically. So what happens is you're just super fueling that machine learning platform with data, and then you're letting the machine do what it does, which is get better at finding you the right customers to put your offer in front of. So our brands are seeing cheaper acquisition costs at the end of that's the ultimate metric everybody's after, but they're seeing cheaper acquisition costs as a result of having this technology installed. We have B2B brands that are leveraging it and they're actually contacting the cold data specifically because we can give the data to the brand owner as well as first party data that they get to own forever. It's theirs, right? So most brands, and you can attest to this, yours is probably no different, convert maybe if they're amazing 5% of the visitors that land on their website into being into their database, right? Whether it's an opt-in or a purchase, would you say?
Oh, for sure.
We're probably generous.
Yeah, that is generous because I mean, across the brands on average, we're looking at like 3 to 4%. Like once it's really dialed, that offer's been running for 6 months. We've done all the split test variations that you're talking about.
Totally.
That. And I've used other software when they land on it, it would give phone number, email, personal address, all that stuff. But we found that it was like not accurate, and we were paying a lot of money for that software, and it wasn't accurate. So why is yours accurate, and why is it working so well when there are a lot of other companies out there that claim that they can pull the pixel data for all the visitors?
Absolutely. So it's just that no two databases are created equal. So I would say that the database that I acquired, purchased for this, is not only an amazing database with over 300 million contact records in it. So that in of itself is great, but it's constantly being updated. All those user behaviors are being updated. So the quality of the database matters. That matters. and the technology that you're using and speed at which you resolve those identities matter when it comes to marketing, right? How fast you're getting that data back to the platform matters. Um, and so for us, it's um, we do have some brands, like I said, that are contacting the data directly and using it in that fashion. The vast majority of our brands, though, are using it as a way to super fuel their traffic pixels with more data and be able to more retarget much larger retargeting audiences. But more importantly, and this is the kind of um, the overall lift to the business, is that once that traffic platform is getting all that data, it goes after a better audience top of funnel for you. It puts your offer in front of the right person to begin with.
Wow.
Because it knows what to do.
So powerful.
And that increases your click-through rates and your engagement on your ads, because now it's getting in front of the right people. Mm-hmm. And all of these platforms reward that with cheaper CPMs, cheaper cost per 1,000 impressions.
Yep. Because the platforms want to be pushing out content that people like
and that they interact with.
Yep, exactly. And how do they do that? They like it, they follow it, they buy it, all those great things. And the other really amazing part about this is for a big company like our database that we've ran since 2015, you can be taking all of that data, be bouncing it off of your database. It'll be refining that. So the pixels that have already collected all this data, we can refine those pixels. They'll start performing better, essentially right out of the gate, if I heard you correct.
That's right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that you're always up to something good.
Yeah.
Because you are obsessed with the process, like we talked about earlier, and you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Where anytime I talk to you, you're like 5 years ahead of everybody else.
Thanks, man.
I'm just so sick.
I love, like I said, I love what I do.
Yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed about it. Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, we're laughing and giggling about pixels right now.
Exactly.
Like we find joy in that.
I'm super, what's so funny is I was a terrible student. I was not like academic at all.
Same.
And I just couldn't stand school. But when I find something I'm passionate about, I kind of go all in on it. I've always been that way. And this is it's my passion. So I love helping business owners grow is truly what I love. Actually, that's, if you break it down to its simplest level, I love helping people win big that have an amazing product or amazing service like that. That really is what I've learned over the years is who I love to work with.
Yep.
And if they've got that, then I can help them get that in front of more people, which creates more impact. And that's, for me, one of the best ways I can have impact in this world is by helping those people get out there in a bigger way.
That's huge, man. That is so important to understand, because for years I was marketing for a lot of businesses that really I was not passionate about in the law space and the dental space. And, it was great money, but I wasn't passionate about it. When it got around to transformation and putting on these events and helping over 50,000 people start businesses.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
That's when I was like, whoa, this is what I was put on this planet to do. I love, from day in and day out, coaching people, doing the podcast, doing these live events, helping people transform in a very short amount of time. It's like, wow.
Yep.
That's what I was meant to do. And like you said, you have so much excitement and joy out of seeing that.
Yeah.
And then just the people you get to be around,
right? Totally.
Around winners and around great products and great people. It's like, it really builds an amazing group of people around you that you get to spend your time with. It's like so many people hate going to work because they're forced to sit around people they don't want to be around.
Yes.
Right? And that's what most people complain about going into a 9-to-5 is the people that they're around. It's not even necessarily the work that they're doing.
That's a fact. People leave people, not jobs.
Yep.
For the most part.
For sure.
And if you're surrounding yourself, I talk about this too. When I was young, I started a construction company, and at the end of the day, I was pounding nails in a house. It's not that cool of a job, but I loved it because I was buddies with all the guys I was working with, and we were playing jokes and pranks on each other all day long, and we were shooting
each other with the nail gun,
shooting each other with nail guns, and it was super fun. I had a blast, and so it didn't matter that I was pounding nails in a house. I was having fun doing what I was doing because I was working with people I loved to be around, and that always stuck with me. And I think it served me really well. I think company culture is, again, it's kind of cliche to talk about culture because everybody tries to talk about culture, but I'm a little bit different in culture because I believe your work culture is you as the founder. as the owner is a reflection of you.
100%.
You can't manufacture it and you can't fake it. If you're an amazing human being, you're going to build an amazing company. If you're not, you're not. I mean,
it's that simple.
You're not going to have a great culture. Like if you yourself aren't focused on doing the right things in your life, you won't build a company with a bunch of people that are focused on doing the right things.
Yep.
If all you care about is money, guess what? Who's going to work for you?
Only people that care about money.
That's right. And guess what's going to happen when they get an offer that's more money?
They're gone.
That's right. So your why has to be bigger, and that why has to bleed into that company. That's why my why is to create impact and help as many entrepreneurs win as I can, right? And then I attract people to work for me that have that same why.
Big time.
And so we pay people well, but my people get offered more money a lot because people know that somebody that works for me is probably pretty damn good at what they do.
For sure.
Right? And they don't leave. You know what my churn is?
I have no idea. Zero.
Wow. I've fired a couple of people, but I have never, ever had a person quit my company.
We're pretty damn close to that as well.
Yeah.
We have 150 employees, and I think we've had, it's mainly been people letting go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the word fire, but just kind of like, I think you'd be better served somewhere else.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
But to that note of culture, we stopped doing events during COVID, and we noticed like the culture really kind of died out a bit. We did a big retreat for our sales team in August where we had everybody come out to my cabin. We were surfing behind the boat, going jet skiing, hike, like just having a blast. Those next 2 months, those guys had their 2 biggest months they'd had in like over a year from that one event of everybody getting together and having that camaraderie and that culture.
Yeah.
And then we did our leadership in September in Vancouver at a house on this private lake. And the amount of infrastructure and growth that happened after that, where all the different heads from different departments were all now working together because they had met in person, it was just exponential growth. You're like, oh, when we go do this retreat, we're going to spend, $25 grand, $30 grand to get everybody there and everybody fed and all this stuff. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of money to spend. But then like the output from that was like exponential.
Oh yeah. That's a huge return on investment. The one, I got a little trick I'll give you and your whole audience for culture building in a remote working environment.
I'd love to hear it.
We've got about 50 people working for us, all remote. Every Friday we do a call, all hands call. And that call, we go round robin. I lead the call every Friday. Biggest win, biggest challenge, and a shout out for somebody on the team that went above and beyond for you that week.
I like that.
Right? So biggest win, biggest challenge also does not have to be work related. It can be personal, and oftentimes is personal. And what this allows us all to do is understand and connect with each other at a deeper level in a digital working environment, right? And it's fun and it's funny, and sometimes people are crying and laughing. There's all series of emotions on this call, but it's authentic. It's not scripted. It's not, it's not BS. It's just real human connection, which we miss a lot in the digital work environment. If I had to say what's the best thing I did when COVID hit, was that call. And that call is almost single-handedly responsible for us having an incredible digital work culture.
That is powerful. Very powerful. Because we were always remote. Now we actually have an office in Vancouver where about 30 or 40 of the employees hang out, and they're going out to dinners every week and doing some really cool stuff. And so we have a hybrid of both. But I'm going to start implementing that.
I'll invite you to mine if you want.
I would love to take notes.
We do this regularly, by the way, and we'll have guests on. And the other thing I did, which you can do too, I turned it into a recruiting tool. So meaning when I have 3 candidates that want to work for me and I have an open role to fill, I'll invite them to the Friday call as a spectator.
Wow.
And when that happens, it changes the conversation from me pursuing them to them pursuing me to work for me, because they've never been a part of something like that before. And it also gives me a chance to see how they react to our team. Because if we're saying funny stuff or somebody, we cuss, we are ourselves on this call, how they react and how they fit in culturally is very evident on this call.
Yep.
And you'll see, and how they react after the call and how bad they fight to work for us is very telling as to whether or not they will be a fit for our company. So we're also then further protecting our culture.
And you're so smart in that way of using that one call to have like 5 different functions essentially,
Basic.
right?
Yeah.
Because like if you're going to do something, figure out how to be creative about how do you get that to go to work for you?
Mm.
We record everything. Like we've created offers based off of recordings of trainings that I've done.
That's incredible.
That you just recycle and edit and take it from an hour Zoom call down to a 35-minute Zoom call. Boom. That's a low ticket training.
I love that.
You know?
I love that, man.
And a way to bring your people up and educate them as well.
Absolutely.
You know, because with our employees, we're always educating them on the products that they're helping, you know, to service or to sell. And it just creates more trust, more brand trust, more awareness, more understanding. They can serve at a higher level so that everybody is, you know, drinking the same Kool-Aid, right?
That's right.
We're all on the same mission to really help people find abundance in their lives.
100%. That's right.
Well, Nick, that was incredible. I learned a ton. I know that listeners at every level, if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, if you've just joined the Abundance platform, if you're a seasoned marketer or brand, there's a lot of information there. Make sure you guys go back, re-listen to this, replay it, share it with your teams because, man, that was fantastic. So, Nick, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Well, we live in the same town, essentially. I mean, I'm up in Cascade. We gotta go shred some powder together for sure.
We do, man. We always joke that we have to fly somewhere else to see each other.
I know.
We see each other at conferences, and we never see each other here. So
I know.
Make it happen.
We're making it happen now.
All right, absolutely.
So, thanks, brother. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.